Alright, so I'm going to be recording this as I'm watching it. Okay, so what you just saw me do was go back to the earlier stages of this, which clearly shows that I traced this pose of a reference photo, which is something I've been doing a lot more. I think, I know how to write from, like how to draw from life, so I think I've kind of earned the right to take shortcuts. And it's not like I copied the image completely, so, but that's a topic for a different time. Right now, what I'm doing in the footage is just adding shadows essentially with the inking. I've copied the ink layer and I'm adjusting it. I'm using one of my new fangled brushes, which like has color variation. It kind of gets lost in the final image, but I think it looks cool on its own. Basically, like the hue of the stroke shifts slightly every time you put the pen down, which I think is very neat. Yeah, and I'm just adding, like I'm thickening the lines where they intersect and add curves, and that just helps it look a lot more three-dimensional. Right, now I'm putting down a gray shade so I can see the colors a bit better. I just took a palette I got on offline. I'm gonna be really struggling to nail down a palette with this one, and the funny thing is at the end I'll have put so many layers on top of this that it's it doesn't really matter the colors I put down in the beginning. I'll have rendered it out, but yeah, I did want it to be an interesting color palette. I wanted there to be like teals in there, but also like purples and greens, and those are kind of tricky shades to get right because it clashes very easily. So yeah, oh, I'm going to be using a trick, which is where you pixelize an image, and that gives you a very easy color palette to choose from. I end up removing like the background and the letter, so I just had the shades of the actual colors, if that makes sense. And I got a lot of cool combinations when I, was just messing around like this. I don't know if the combination I ended up with was the best one, but I mean, it worked out in the end. So yeah, I'm just putting down flat colors, just no shenanigans with opacity or variation, just the basic color so I can figure out a palette. Yeah, I don't know, there's not much to say about this other than I'm just fudging around a lot. As you can see, like at the right, you see how I'm like jumping back and forth between the layers, adjusting things here and there. Not really naming my layers because I use Ctrl R, and with Ctrl R you can jump to the layer that you're tapping. So I'll Ctrl R and I'll tap on the pens and I'll be on the layer that the pens are shaded on. So that's where I don't need to name my layers. I just know where to go. Just like making sure the like edges are crisp. And then I go straight to the face because the face is the most important part. So I usually shade that just like how you would paint normally, just with colors. I'm adding the makeup here. Oh, I used another like color variance brush. So you see there's like a bunch of different colors in the shadow on his face. I don't know why I end up removing this, but I do. I fudge around with the brush a lot in the brush maker to make it yellow, but like a little variation on yellow. I didn't want there to be too much variation in there. Yeah, I'm just using. I'm making this a group as well. Like I'm using mask layers, which means that I stay within the flat colors of the face. I don't like accidentally color on the hood or something. And I just used, like normal layer modes for this. With the lips, I did lower the opacity of the layer that the lip. Oh, I see. I lowered the opacity there too. because it was a little bit too strong. More fudging with the brush. I like the way the glitter came out. The glitter is quite hard to do right because you don't want to make it too detailed, because then, you know, it looks too cluttered. Yeah, I was figuring out what I wanted to do with the beads. I ended up doing, here it is flat light, and I'm using that same color variation brush but in a lighter shade. Oh, and here you see that I'm fudging around with the layer mode. Now I'm going on top of that with a multiply layer, and then erasing the parts that aren't in shadow. More fudging around with the layers. Welcome to like 90% of my art process. Just throwing stuff at a wall, seeing what sticks. And I'm going on top of it with, I think, a normal layer and adding, just like refining the shapes a little bit and adding some saturation. Yeah, like at the edge where the shadows start. That helps it like pop a lot more. I forgot how much I struggled with these beads. Another trick I used, I just took a pattern from the internet, and I just like slapped it on there, adjusted the pattern a bit. Yeah, and then I just literally went to the layer mode, started at the top, and used the arrow key, just like down, 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 until I got something I liked, copied the layer, and then started over again, until I got something that I liked. I combined 2 layer modes for this. I don't remember which. I'd have to look more closely. Another multiply layer I just put on top of there. Now I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I want to shade this? Right? Do I want to go multiply layer? Do I want to go normal shading? Like, what do I want to... The benefit with multiply layer is that you keep the pattern, you know? Like, if I put a normal purple on top of that, it would have, like, the pattern of the hood would have been lost. But now I can just put the multiply layer on top of everything, and the hue variations and the patterns will be maintained. So that's the benefit of, using a multiply layer. Yeah, and I'm just carving out the parts that are supposed to be in light, and I'm just putting it where there's shadow. Right, you see, I went back to a normal shade. You saw how it was a neon purple until I went back. And I think, yeah, this is another layer mode, a lighter one, and I'm definitely using the color variants. I'm making sure to keep it in one stroke, so that there's a lot of color variation, but there's the shapes are still distinct. That doesn't make sense, but just I'm using the color variation brush. And then I'm going back and I'm feathering it out with the airbrush tool. I'm blending some parts with the watercolor blender. Yeah, just refining a lot of edges. And this is in a normal layer, I think. Yeah, this is a normal layer, which is very useful where you want to get the exact shade you're looking for. More fiddling with things. Oh, sorry, flash. Bit of a flash warning here. Yeah, I lost kind of the intensity of the expression, so now I'm going back and trying to fix that. Just making sure that the expression doesn't get lost in the shadows. Adding more like pops of saturation. Oh, right, I accidentally put some layers not on a mask layer, so a lot of stuff went outside of the lines, essentially. And I was just selecting everything around the figure to remove that. Like, just, selecting everything and then pressing delete. I'm putting the snake in grayscale first, because I wasn't sure what color I wanted to make them, and I knew with grayscale it would be a lot easier to, keep the shape right. I should have stopped here. I really should have stopped here, but I didn't. I continued. But it is what it is. I'm using just a default brush from Krita for the scales. Most of my brushes are default. Fiddling around with it. Yeah, and I added a color by how did I add the color? Oh right, you didn't see it, but I added a gradient map, which is when you it's very useful for going from grayscale to color. Now I'm just making sure that the figure doesn't get lost in the background. I'm starting out with this bright yellow because it's very visible. I'm going to be adjusting it later on. Yeah, just making sure those shapes are right. Yeah, okay, and I went over it with the color shifting thing and feathering it out and stuff. And then I think I changed it to color dodge as well. Yeah, color dodge. That's the word. Yeah, some more normal layers. Adding a border because I realized, hey, maybe I should consider composition at some point. Yeah, just the rim lighting is very useful when you want to keep lines distinct. Because it was getting quite dark, so I can't really tell because it's I'm too far away from the screen to see, but I don't know how many layers. It ended up being quite a few of them. Yeah. Oh yeah, here I'm going into the adjust layer and shifting the colors around, which is where the colors are getting more homogeneous. I fiddled with the like light balance as well, but didn't end up liking it. So, but I basically made the shadows more blue and red, and I believe the midtones more cyan. It doesn't record that part, but it's just a menu that you open from filter and then adjust. But then the sash like popped out too much, so what you just saw was me trying to adjust it to make it more homogeneous, and also making the lip a bit darker so it doesn't get lost. And I added a grayscale layer, then I added a gradient map on top of that. That's the gradient mapped grayscale, and then I changed that to, I think, multiply or something. No, color dodge again. Color dodge again. Yeah, and that was a very easy trick to make your colors more make them pop more. Copying the layer, making it grayscale. I made the contrast bigger in the grayscale as well, which is very easy to do. And then with that higher contrast image, I made it so that the darks were blue and the highlights were orange, and then I changed that to color dodge. And voila,